As Joy bundles up to brave the cold weather, she shares some warm thoughts with her new friend Janet. See, they both have something in common. They went through critical times in their lives where they needed more than just a friend. And fortunately for them, their churches had just what they needed.
I was a teacher, and I retired a little early because I wasn't doing my job the way I expected to be doing it. I wasn't doing it well. And just shortly after I retired, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor.
It was during that difficult time in Joy's life that someone from a new ministry in her church contacted her, simply offering companionship.
For me, it was very important. It was absolutely important. Each minister from this church came, but they can't come every week. You don't expect that. Friends tended to stay away because my face was bloated. I couldn't remember things. I wasn't the person they remembered. And some of them were not comfortable coming around. Others came around and brought me wholesome food and encouraged me and so on, and we laughed. But we didn't talk about things of the heart as I did with my Stephen minister. It's a different relationship.
Many of us expect that if something were to happen to us, our pastor would be the first person to respond. And in most cases, that's true. But after he or she has moved on to the next person in need, there is often still a desire for someone to talk to. And that's what Stephen ministers provide.
Having a Stephen minister is somebody to walk with them through that dark period in their life, that they're not alone, that somebody cares enough to take time and to spend with them. And when the initial crisis takes place, they are told, you call me day or night, I'll be there for you. And that's very reassuring to people.
It's ministries like this one that urges members of the church to reach out to others, especially in times of need. That's what Reverend Bethune has seen over the years since introducing Stephen Ministries to his local church.
Oh, wow. That's true.
Started in 1975 in St. Louis, Missouri, Stephen Ministry consists of members of local churches that are trained to provide care and support to those who have gone through traumatic experiences, from losing a loved one, a job, or even going through an illness, like Joy.
But I expected to recover very quickly, and really it took me much longer than I expected. And my Stephen minister kept encouraging me, and get up and walk, and are you doing your exercises? And she brought me readings, not long things because I couldn't concentrate too much, but prayers, and I know she brought me some Bonhoeffer to read. She just was always encouraging and listening.
And for many, an ear is all they need. Janet Wright-Smith was also in need of someone to come alongside her during one of her darkest moments.
Well, about 11 years ago, I developed a chronic illness, and it has peaks and valleys. And when it's peaks, I'm still out there and I'm still me. And when it's valleys, it's much more secluded lifestyle. And I'm a very communal, extroverted kind of person, and illness is often quite isolating. To have someone desiring to intentionally reserve a piece of time just for me, that they would stop by. We have dogs, and my Stephen minister would bring her dog. And it was just wonderful to have her time.
And that's what Stephen Ministry intends to provide, a safe place. The ministers go through an intense job interview process and through several hours of training where they're taught the importance of privacy. In fact, the whole ministry is kept confidential. No one in the church, not even the pastor, knows who the ministers are visiting.
I don't think most people are going to tell you anything that is very serious and significant in their life if you don't assure them it's going to be confidential. If they know that you are trustworthy, you can be trusted with this very private and personal information, which has caused them a lot of pain and suffering. And that's something most people are not prepared to put out in a public way. And so it's the same thing with any caring professional. If you talk about a doctor, you talk about a lawyer, and so on, people wouldn't go to these people if they weren't assured of confidentiality. And that's true of Stephen Ministry. I think that's important for us to remember that in the church.
So far, there are over 10,000 congregations with the Stephen Ministry, and it continues to grow annually, while meetings among the ministers in each local church are held monthly. Reverend Thomas Kay, pastor of Knox Presbyterian Church in Guelph, Ontario, says this ministry is about equipping their members so that they can support each other as well.
And we felt there was a real need out there for people to have someone walk with them, and a need for people who wanted to help but didn't know how, and were afraid of doing the wrong thing, or didn't know what to say if they did help. And so there was a need to provide real equipping and training for ministry. And Stephen Ministry, the program was the vehicle that allowed us to do that, to equip people to do ministry, not simply sit in the pews and hear about ministry.
That doesn't mean the pastor stops visiting and supporting those in need.
Yeah. Yes, certainly.
But Stephen ministers are able to dedicate their efforts to one particular person for a significant amount of time.
Most ministers are a bit like firemen or policemen. They go from crisis to crisis. A death occurs and they're there. But then they're called away. There's another death. They have another funeral and so on. But the Stephen minister is someone there who will stay with that person as long as they need them. You know, most people, to deal with death probably takes 2.5 to 3 years to really deal with the loss they've experienced of a loved one. And so the Stephen minister is there during that period of time. And while people will survive without it, there are fewer scars. Healing takes place. And what we make clear is that we're the caregivers. Jesus is a cure giver.
I think it's really important because there's a lot of people within the church or outside the church that are in a crisis, that need people, that just need someone to sit beside them, to listen to them and be a friend to them and pray with them, or just be with them, offer a cup of cold water. Yeah, just give them God's love.
That's what Joy received from her Stephen minister just a few years ago. And now healthy and whole, she knows this ministry helped her get to where she is today.
I heard that God cared for me, and she was a representative of God to me.
For further information on Stephen Ministry, go to our website at crossroads.ca. In Guelph, Ontario, Magdalene John, 100 Huntley Street.